Hello everyone, my name is AJ and welcome to my studio. And today we're going to be continuing our tutorials, going a little more in depth, because if you remember when we were doing the brief overview of the male and female figures, I rather, said that I would touch on some parts of the body in greater detail. Sorry, I'm just getting some things straightened out over here. It's a bit of a mess on my desk. You'll never see it though. Anyway. I said that we'd touched on, I can't talk, it's still morning, I'm still drinking my coffee here. We are going to take apart the body into, sections and go over them in greater detail. It's easier to do it in smaller sections because you can make multiple videos and take the same amount of time. Anyway. So, instead of just prattling on, let's get to it. So, I've got just regular printer paper here. Got a few sheets to make sure it's nice and soft, otherwise this plastic right here with its gouges and scratches would make the surface just a terrible spot. Oh, excuse me. Got a regular cheap mechanical pencil, easy to throw away, easy to buy a new one, or multiple packs. And I've also got a brick eraser for the bigger mistakes in case we make them, because everyone makes mistakes. So, continuing the tradition, we are going to go over the female figure first. As I said, we were going to be going over I don't think I said it actually. We're going to go over the torso, so everything from technically the head all the way down to about the crotch area. We'll see when we get to that point. So, we're going to draw on a bit more of a few different angles here. We're going to, just play around. So let's get into it. I've got my personal reference off to the side. I'd recommend having it so you can get the proportions right. And yeah. You can divide the paper into the necessary sections if you want. I'm personally not going to, mostly because having practice, I know how to do it. I'm just going to quickly sketch in a head, so that way I have just a basis to go from. Even if you don't actually use it as a measuring point, you subconsciously, once you get used to it, you get used to using it as a measuring point, you just look at it and know, okay, this is how far it is. Sip of coffee there. So, let's start with drawing the line of the neck. And we're going to be having her facing the same direction as her face is. So, a relatively relaxed pose. Keeping in mind that foreshortening, which is, if you were to take, let's see. Let's just use this pen right here. So, you have it facing flat, right, like this. If you were to, let's put it right here. Turn it forward, it may not be very obvious, but foreshortening makes it look smaller. Well, of course, that's obvious. And depending on how you want to modify it, the further side will appear smaller than the front side. So, bearing those principles in mind, the shoulders are going to be much narrower in this angle than if she was facing forward. Just getting the overall shape of the ribcage down. Now, even though I include the full shape of the ribcage here, I'm going to cut off a small section with the shoulder line here. Get that center line down. And the shoulders, let's make them kind of just bisect like this, so that way they're like halfway in. It's all about guesswork with this, mostly. So as you can see, as compared to the original image, if you were to find that and grab that, the shoulders appear much more narrow, or narrower, whatever you want to say. And like last time, we are going to add that cleft. It'll be necessary later. So let's just make it look like an actual ribcage here. That'll do. And here's something that I didn't cover on, mostly because seeing as we were looking at it in front view, you wouldn't have seen it anyway. we're going to add a secondary curve back here. I don't do this anymore, but I used to, and it really helped a lot. So it makes the ribcage look like a 3D object. Oh, shoot. Can you actually see that? Yes, you can. And we're 5 minutes in already. Oh my goodness. Okay. Time flies, don't it? As Groucho Marx said, time flies like an arrow, and fruit flies like a banana. I like coffee, though. Alright. And keeping with the proportions we had established last time, this is going to be a little more stiff, because we're just looking at the torso. We'll learn how to do dynamics at a later time. But let's just understand how things line up. So, at or just below the undercurve right here that we have, this is a lot harder drawing than I would normally do. So, starting at or just below the bottom of the rib cage, right where this spine is, yeah, actually we're going to keep it there, because the spine will actually continue a little bit, and we'll have this juncture point right here. That's where the spine actually meets the pelvis, but breaking into larger geometric shapes makes it a little easier. Anyway, so we're going to have it come back to about the same width of the shoulder here, maybe a little further, we'll see. And just maybe in line with the front of the rib cage. Yeah. And remember, like I said last time, we're going to make this look kind of like a bucket. We're going to make the top of it flat, or maybe dish-shaped, whatever you want to say. And then bring it down to about here. Now we're going to stop right here, and we're going to add the center line. That sounded stupid. Center line, not center. And then we're going to round this around. Now, as you can see, it creates kind of a bucket shape, although that looks terrible. It's more like a weird inverted bowl. Let's just straighten that out a little bit here. It's all about guesswork. Most of the time, what you're going to be doing when you're doing artwork is fumbling through it. But as I said, this right here is kind of a flat zone. And that's exactly what you want to go for, because the pelvis is, as I said, it's like a bucket. If you were to look at many different figure drawing studies, they make it look almost like a cone, almost, with half of it sheared off, and you have just the broader part of it instead of the smaller cone. And just for the sake of convenience, down here we're going to have the upper part of the femurs. Now, instead of, I went for more of a realistic point right here, and they're slightly in from the sides instead of directly at the sides of the pelvis block. That's just for added convenience. And we're not going to go over the arms in too much detail. In fact, I'm only going to do the humerus, the upper arms, in here. They're going to be cut off about right here at the elbows. Because we're not focusing on the arms and we're not focusing on the legs. That's why they're only stopping right here. We're only focusing on the torso. In fact, I'm not even going to add any details to the head. That's all it's going to stay as. And that might sound maybe a little misogynistic and objectifying, but that's not what I'm going for. Anyway, so adding details. How do we add the details? Well, let's start from up here. As I said, remember, and repetition is good. Repetition is key. So at the jawline, make the neck go down to about in line with the chin here, and then taper it down towards the shoulders. And like when we did the original overview, it creates kind of this coat hanger look. And on the other side, it's just going to slightly poke down underneath the chin, maybe a little bit behind it. Yes, a little bit behind it, that looks better. And then it goes down. And the reason for that is because of foreshortening and perspective, the neck becomes more prominent at this angle. Let's see if I can't get a closer view of that for you there. There you go. As you can see, it's just poking out ever so slightly underneath. I did it really small, but it's pretty easy to see. Alright, we're going to pop right back. And we're back. So let's get back to it. Yeah, I actually did those proportions right. I'm always worried that I get my proportions wrong, but once you get used to it, if you try too hard to do it, if you, like, measuring this out, when I was measuring out the proportions on the previous videos, I was actually worried I was getting my proportions wrong, because I go more by instinct because of constant repetition and drilling it into my head. Anyway, this isn't about me, this is about you guys. So, if you remember in the previous video, because we're working out from the top down, that the top of this cleft right here is also another point. So, let's just add that curve like we did last time. It goes just underneath the underarms, wraps up above, and then goes over. And if you all remember from a few weeks ago, this is the upper partition of where the breast lies, and down here is the lower. So if we make it look like a 3D object, we know where everything is supposed to sit. And as a little rule of thumb, we're not going to really go over it too much. In this, we'll probably go over a separate video for this, is that the line of the shoulders can actually help create dynamics for the line of the breasts and the way they lie. But seeing as this is just a neutral, flat plane, we will just go over having them flatten in line. So we'll just create a line going across to keep things straight. Yeah, make sure it's good and parallel with the shoulders. So, this is a touchy subject simply because of, well, sickening society. Breasts are kind of a teardrop shape, so we're not going to go too over the top here. And as I said in the other video, I don't do it, but you can if you want. In fact, I'll just do it anyway, just for satisfying purposes. It crosses over like this. I should probably change the angle of this one here. This is a lot of intersecting lines. It's going to be a little crowded, but it's all necessary. And when you get more advanced and you get more accustomed to it, you'll grow to not need these. So using these lines, let's start doing this. I personally find it easier to draw the farther breast first. So starting right here at this point, it's just, well, these are technically naked, so we'll just have it sweep down a little bit, and now it's just a my mind is completely blanked. Oh my word. So if you can imagine almost this overall shape, this is pretty much the way the lines follow for her breasts. And following this line, because we're going, looks to be about like maybe a A or B cup, I don't know. We'll just keep it following this flow, and seeing as, technically speaking, topless. Again, I'm not used to doing this. It's not to say that I'm afraid of drawing women, but I'm unaccustomed to drawing in this kind of detail. What I just did there was I kind of added a curve to show that it's lying flat against her ribs. Anyway, let's get rid of some of these lines, just to see how that looks. Oh yeah, I did okay. Because they kind of lay down and to the side a little bit, thanks to being, well, your rib cage lies backwards and they're strung by gravity. Anyway, we're lingering too much on them. Let's move on. So, another good point that this rib cage curve has is it helps indicate the abdominal wall, your abs. So we're going to use that as a point to follow. So starting about right here, it's going to follow this gentle curve as it comes down towards the groin. Same over here, only maybe a little difference. It'll just tuck in like this, and then it goes and curves down like this. I'm not used to doing this all that much. Due to life, I'm a little out of practice. But we'll get there, bit by bit. So, and then starting back here, about where this line ends, we're going to connect the hips to the rib cage, making our waist. It's almost like a straight line, almost, that leads down to the pelvis. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then, like I said in the previous video, about halfway down, well, I didn't say that actually, but it should be more like halfway down the pelvis, about right here in this spot. Right here is where the top part of the thigh will begin. So we have this curve right here, and then we have a secondary curve that pops out. This is where the hip bone is, and it just comes out. And then you'd have a few other lines and muscles depending on how toned they are, but we're going for a rather average build here. So on the outside of this wall right here, the abdominal wall, we're just going to add, excuse me, my stomach's a little off. I'm going to add a curve right here to connect the pelvis to the outer side of the wall. And then we're going to use the center lines right here to add the midpoint of it. So it's going to sweep in a little bit, and then it's going to bulge out before it comes down towards the bottom of the pelvis. And keeping in mind that the top part of the pelvic area, this spot right here, not where the spine joins, but just above it, is where the navel will be. And we're just going to, you know, kind of add maybe like a little circle right here. It's just for a placeholder. And now, typically women aren't drawn with incredibly toned muscles like men are. It's just not what society holds as the beauty standard. Women are generally supposed to be very delicate, sleek, and gentle. Oh my lord, we are almost out of time here. Okay, I'm gonna have to book it because my phone gets temperamental once we start touching 20 minutes. So, it's just going to be some generalized lines right here. This is what I get for rambling. And then, front part of the thigh sweeps out from in here, and then it comes down and around. And then right here, again, bearing in mind that it pops out a little bit from the curve, comes down. And then the back part, because women are soft curves, men are hard lines. Keep that in mind. Hard lines are strong. So this sweeps up in kind of a line, and then this rounds down. As I said, the legs aren't really what we're focusing on too much. It was mostly the torso, and I rambled on way too much. Some final pointers before we close is kind of along this center line of the spine. So you'd, in this perspective, if you wanted to draw a nude, the nipples would be, no, never mind. We're not going to go that. We're not going to go there. We're not learning that. That's for a separate video entirely. Never mind. I wish I could edit that out, but I don't have any software for that. So, I think I've pretty much covered everything that needs to be covered. I know this is rather rushed right now, but unfortunately I'm running out of time, so I hope you found this even somewhat helpful. I personally feel like I could have done better, but what are you going to do? If you did find it helpful and you did like it, please hit that like button, and if you want to see more content like this and help me, support me, and maybe to improve the content in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notifications for future uploads. And I thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. God bless.